Welcome to Behind the Emerald podcast with Mandy and Allison from Soulstar Energy Collective. We are intuitive mentors and healers, and we just love to show up every week and make spirituality and the metaphysical world relatable and fun for everybody. So we chat about different topics and hopefully that broadens people's awareness and perspective and maybe sparks a little bit of intrigue so you can go down your own rabbit holes and explore a little bit further. But yeah, we love this space and we love you.
Oh, so nice, Mandy.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So I'm just going to plug because it just came into my head. So we offer intuitive courses. You can take it self-paced, so like online courses if you kind of just want to do it in your own time. And then we also offer interactive ones, and we have our 6-month container opening up for registration. So you can get on the interest list. I was like, what's that word? So you can get on the interest list because all of our interest list peeps get a little bonus, like a little like either discount or bonus, whatever it is. We always kind of decide it and spur of the moment, but you get a treat. And so if you're interested, you can go on the interest list. It's not you committing to it. We will be hosting a live Zoom call to kind of like go over the details of it and all that stuff, because that's where you can kind of decide if it's for you. But it's a beautiful container that we basically hold your hand throughout the process of awakening your gifts and being able to recognize them, and the healing that comes along with that, because that seems to always come along with it, and it's beautiful growth. So we absolutely love this container. We are getting to the end of our current one that started in January. And it is always like, it is so hard at the end, because when you spend that much time together and you see people grow and expand. And yeah, it's just, I love doing this and connecting with people. So everybody feels like friends when we leave.
Yeah. And I think
right?
we do it so differently than a lot of teachers, because the courses that we've taken, there's not a lot of interaction with the teachers or the mentor or whatever. It's more like you're sitting in the Zoom and you're listening to them talk or whatever. But it is, we're part of it. We're there. We're doing it.
Yeah. We're cracking jokes. We're doing all the things.
We're teaching. We're answering questions.
We're helping you like move through the self-doubt, because that is always the biggest obstacle and loudest part of this journey. And so like we're right in there with you to catch you when you kind of like are going off the rails, like, oh, I can't do this, what's happening? Because we understand it. So that is what's happening. And then obviously, if you ever want a reading, you can book it with us, or healing. We do all the things. All right, on to regular programming. So what are we talking about today, Mandy?
We're gonna talk about the benefits of reading the Akashic records, connecting and reading past lives, and the benefit of being able to understand those past lives and how they show up in your current lifetime, and then also how like healing them, the benefit of healing them. So we're gonna do that, but first we have some stories, because this is the fun part.
It's the fun part.
It's all fun, but this is the extra fun.
I know. I'm like, it's a story time. It's not teaching time, it's story time. And I've been writing down my stories because I obviously seem to forget. So I'm going to share my experience last week. I went to my son's spring concert at his school. So he is 13, he's in grade 8, and he is in band, and he plays the trombone, right?
Yes.
That's the one? Okay. I can see it in my head, but I never know what the names are. And he actually told me, because their class played the Mission Impossible.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, that I was doing the do 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 do.
Oh, because he's a trombone, yeah.
And I said, dude, I didn't know that, because I can't see for shit. And so I was like, you're the star of the show in that one, because that's what everybody knows of that song. So I thought that was kind of cool. But so went there, and it was, middle school. So it was grades 6, 7, and 8. So lots of people in the gym, lots of parents or whatever. And one of the songs that the grade 6, 7s, the band was playing with 3 little singers, was Hallelujah. And it's such a beautiful song. Like I've always, as a singer, I connect to that song. Not necessarily the words, because they're kind of messed up, but the lyrics and the music of it, not the lyrics, but like just the musical part of it really kind of like connects to. So this starts playing, and it's a grade 6, 7 band and singers. Like it's not like we're sitting there and we're listening.
Not professionals.
No, we're not professionals. So I'm not getting like caught up in the like, oh God, this is such a beautiful song. It is what it is. And all of a sudden I start to get like emotional, and I start to have like this wave of like, I want to cry. And it completely took me by surprise, because like I said, I was like in my head, I'm like, I know you like the song, but it's not even like it's doing justice to it or anything like that. I'm not trying to be mean, but it just is. I'm like, there's no need to cry about it. That was my mindset. And I would try to distract myself by looking at other people or looking at the tape on the wall, I was literally trying so hard to distract myself, because I was like so close to leaving that gym and going into the bathroom and crying. And every time I would stop distracting myself, it would come back, and I'm like, what is happening? And so I fucking got through the song, and I was just like, okay, that's enough. And gone. It was gone. And it was super weird. And then after the performance, I was driving home, and my boys were with their dad, and we live in the same neighborhood. And I'm driving home, and I see them pass, and just random thought of like, oh God, that's so weird. Like I'm not in there, and I'm in my own. I wasn't. It's not like I was in a space that I was like, like I wasn't. It was just a thought. I wasn't there. I wasn't where I was. And all of a sudden I just burst out crying, and I have to pull over. And now I'm like fucking ugly crying, and like all the things. And I'm everywhere. Like, what is happening? And I'm like, you're not even sad. But then of course at that moment I was like, yes, you are.
Why?
Did this come out of nowhere? And so it left as quickly as it came. And I thought, oh, let me just get myself up to my condo, because obviously I'm not going to go up crying in the condo. It's not like I can run into a house. I'm like, I had to like get myself together. And I was like, okay, if you need to cry again, you'll cry when you get up there. And no, there was no crying. And so I was telling Mandy about this. And this is where I just love it, because, I don't put 2 and 2 together ever. And Mandy was like, oh, I bet you were connecting to the collective, the group in that gymnasium. And it just like, right when she said it, it pinged. And I was like, oh my God, what an idiot. I was like, yep, that is it. I'm like, this song, obviously, like being the song that it is, would pull from people's emotions anyways.
Yeah.
Their children being up there, the singers, all the things. And so I was like, fuck, that makes sense. That makes way more sense than what I was, in my head about. And then it completely made sense of why I burst out crying on the way home, which I find pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because, obviously I stifled in the moment. I stifled my
my
emotions down, because I wasn't gonna be like a weirdo and be like,
it's not even your kids singing.
Not even like it would literally be like, are you okay? Yeah, I am. I don't know why I'm crying, but oh. And so I was like, me stuffing it down. So on the way home, I fucking loved it. Not in the moment, but afterwards I was like, oh my God, my energy, my body was like, yeah, you stuffed that down, but we don't want to hold on to it.
We still need to release that.
Yeah. So here you go, purge it and move on. And I was like, holy shit. And if I was aware of it in the moment, because we've, when we've been in readings and stuff, I've realized that I've, can pick up on the emotions and have cried, not when delivering it to anybody. Don't worry. You won't have to console me in the reading. is when Mandy and I have been doing a reading for somebody, and then all of a sudden, and I'm not even a crier. You're more of a crier than me.
I feel like you should stop saying that because
I'm not.
you have cried way more than I have.
I know. And that's the thing. Like,
You are now officially a crier.
I don't want to be a crier. I'm like,
you cry more than me.
I know. I'm like, why? You're emotional. You're like emotional, I would say. You're more emotional then, not maybe crying. Maybe your water sign's broken. I think it's because I think of water, and so I think of tears with you, but it's not the tears, it's more the emotion. You can be on a little bit of a wave. And I find for my, like, in the sense of crying, I've never been somebody in the past. Like, I'm not the type that gets into a movie or a show and starts to cry. Like, I've always been the one, like, with the friends, and they're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, it's a movie. Like, I'm not going to cry. And, it just not overly, I just don't overly get emotional over things, or like sentimental things. I don't know. Like, I'm not the type to go to a concert and be like, oh my God, this is my son's last band in grade 8 in middle school. Like, I'm not the type to then sit there and be like, oh, I love you so much. No, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen to me. So that's why it was kind of like surprising me, because I'm like, dude, I don't even know why you're getting emotional, because there's nothing to be emotional about. So, but I have noticed since, this spiritual awakening, and the more I open up my gifts, the more connected I get, the more connected to emotions, and obviously other people's emotions that I'm having, that I'm like, whoa, this is just crazy. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. And I think if I knew it in the moment, I would have been like, if this isn't mine, I release it, because that's what I do in readings. And it probably would have just, like, I wouldn't have had to distract myself so damn hard. It would have just, like, gone out of there. But of course I was not there, and I couldn't understand what was happening.
Well, the only reason I knew what was happening to you is because I've experienced that myself. And like, it's happened a couple times. Once I was at a concert with Nick, and I was just having the best time. And it was like,
that's the best.
I know. And this was the beginning of everything, like before I developed anything. So very before COVID even. But I was in that space where I was paying attention to energy. Like I understood I was an empath at this point, and I was trying to protect my energy and all the things. But what I realized in that moment was that the collective energy, I didn't even know what it meant, a collective energy at that point, but I knew that in that concert, we were all in a theater. Everybody was having such a good time. Couldn't tell you who the band was at this point. I have no idea. The music was good, but it wasn't something that it was for Nick. Like, it was his band. Like, he wanted to go check them out. But everybody in the room was having an amazing time, and the band was having an amazing time. And I felt so much joy and so much happiness during that period of time, and almost to an overwhelm where I felt like I wanted to cry with gratitude that it was such a good time. And then, because I was paying attention to energy at that point in time in my life, I realized that as an empath, I was picking up on the energy of everybody in that room. And then it made me realize that it happened, like, okay, not everybody often is in that type of mood, right? So usually people are going about their day and everybody's grumpy and broody and frustrated and angry. Like, that's the typical energy of the world, I'd say. It's not often where you come across somebody and they're just super upbeat and happy all the time. And if you do, it's rare. Like, not everybody's that way, right?
People are annoyed by me because of that. And I'm like, that's mean.
Because your light triggers their shadow.
But me, man. I've even had people say, like, oh yeah, when I first met you, you're too much. And I was like, what? I was just trying to be nice.
Well, it makes you think. It makes you realize that a lot of our moods are not even have anything to do with us. It is
absolutely.
It's how we are connecting to whatever energy it is in the room. And especially if we're all going to work and everybody's in a shitty, and you might not even know that everybody's in a shitty mood, but it just might be the vibration that everybody's connected in, or the vibration of the office, or whatever, like the classroom, the office, the household, the whatever, wherever, the Costco that you're going to. And then all of a sudden you're also in a bad mood. So I think trying to recognize, well, why am I in a bad mood?
Or
You know,
anxiety, like
anxiety is a big one.
anxiety is a big one. Like
Fear.
yeah.
Yeah.
You and I have said, like driving downtown, all of a sudden
Yeah.
I'm like, woo, and you don't realize it. Like you're like, why am I so anxious right now? But it's being it's being
Aware.
aware
Hmm.
that if I didn't have the knowledge of like the energy and how I know it affects my body, I would just be like, oh God, I'm gonna have a panic attack. And I've had panic attacks. And I would probably connect it to something in my
Hmm.
life
Hmm.
to make it make sense. And
Yeah.
now if I get anxiety out of nowhere, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? Oh shit.
It's
Oh, you just entered downtown Victoria. Okay.
full of
Yeah.
homeless people and
Yeah. Yeah.
addicts and terrible
Mhm.
dense energy.
Well,
So
everybody in their corporate job, everything,
yeah,
right?
that's
So then all of a sudden
everything.
I'm like, like,
Yeah.
so
We're
it's
just like,
so fascinating. I
yeah.
know we're just little
Do,
sponges,
do,
like
do, do. And boom.
boom. Well, and it also like it really kind of made sense. Like, you can look back in your life and realize like just different parts that you're like, oh my God, yeah. Like when I'm the designated driver and everybody's drinking and I feel like I'm just as drunk as they are. Like I have
Yeah.
that all the time where everybody's like, are you sure you haven't drank? And I was like, no, I haven't drank Diet Coke. But then I feel it too, right? You
Yeah.
feel like the like silliness. And so like you with the concert, it's just like that,
Hmm.
your natural state would not have been joyful.
No, not that, not overwhelmed with joy.
No, when you first started to tell the story, that was like the first thing that popped into my head was like, you're like, oh my God, like I went, everybody was so happy. And it just like me, and I was like, oh yeah, broody Mandy would have shown up instead of everybody, and she'd be
I,
like, this is a terrible band.
well, yeah, it was extra though. It wasn't like just typical, like, oh, this is great. It was like
Overwhelming.
overwhelmed. And I was like, wow, like, why is it so overwhelming? But it
Yeah, you
was,
don't need to cry about it. You don't
yeah,
need to get like, yeah, right. That's the same type of thing. It's a
yeah,
joyful thing, but you don't need to cry about it. But when it's
right.
overwhelming, you feel
Yeah.
like crying.
Yeah. And I felt it with Aubrey's dance recital. I think it was last year or the year before. There was
Last year, I
just,
think I
yeah,
remember.
so much pride I felt. And I was like, my kid's not even on the stage. And I felt like I was gonna cry because I was so proud of these friggin' kids that worked so hard all year long for this moment. And I was like, why do I feel so overwhelmed with pride right now? And then I realized it was because that's how everybody was feeling in the moment,
Totally.
within the theater. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not mine.
You're like, what the hell? Well, same, because my kid wasn't even playing, and I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? And I'm like, okay.
Okay, let me share quickly with what I did today for us.
Hmm.
So I felt called as I walked into my office this morning to just clean my altar space. So people call it an altar, but it's really just pretty things that are displayed in my office that I can look at every day. And on this altar, like I wanted to dust it and just shift the energy and cleanse it and all that sort of stuff. And I wanted to re-pull some cards because I have this like wooden thing that I can place some cards in. So I can, when I pull cards, I can view them and reconnect to them and just receive the messages and be reminded of them. So this morning I wanted to pull new cards, and so what I did, I felt pulled to pull cards for our business because as we are opening up our registration for the next cohort, I wanted to connect and call in the aligned students that are ready for this container and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of connected and I opened my channel safely. This is what we teach in our on-demand course, Unlocking Your Intuition. And I did my connection ritual. I called for my peeps and stuff like that. And then what happened was I called for the energy of Soul Star Energy Collective because our business is its own energy and it has disconnected from our energy. Because I think at the beginning when you build a business, it's very much part of you, but
Yeah.
it is big enough now where it's separate and it's its own energy and its own entity. So she came forward and then I asked her I have this beautiful deck called the Divine Feminine Oracle, and it's full of divine feminine ascended masters. And so I said, could you show me which ascended masters are going to be working with us in the next few weeks as we call forward and align with these students? And so I pulled two cards. So I felt two energies come forward in my meditation, but I wanted to know specifically which ones they were. So I said, I'm going to pull two cards, and I pulled Dakina and Zhou Ming. I think that's her name.
Dakini,
Dakini. Yes. I was
is
gonna
it?
bring the cards over here and I forgot them over there. So Dakini and Zhou Ming, I believe that is. I'll put it in the show notes if anybody's interested. And then so I pulled these cards and then I looked at the imagery and then as we do in our weekly card reading. So this is what we do is basically read energy. And this is what we teach. We teach you how to read energy. So I was connecting to the energy of Zhao Yangming first, and then I closed my eyes and, I allowed her to come forward in my meditation and I connected to her energy that way. And I felt her. I felt her energy. And then I received messages and insight from her. And um, she was just reminding me of these beautiful, like these things that we know consciously, but then to experience the energy and the emotions and the sensations in a meditation is just some like next level, right? And then so she was giving me a bit of a healing and she was pulling forward like a ball of anxiety, like an energy that was sitting in my chest, and she pulled it out and she had me look at it. And then we dispersed it into like they were all these like strings of energy. And then she was showing me that these strings of energy all have their own vibration. And if they're sitting in the vibration of anxiety and frustration or anxiety or like worry or whatever it was, that's the vibration that it's connecting to in the universe. So that's what I'm attracting. Like that's where I'm at. So then,
Mm,
and of course I know that on a conscious level, but then to experience that energetically and to understand it from a different level, from a different depth, I guess, is different. And then she worked with me to heal it and to release it. And so she basically did a healing with me and shifted some energy. And then Dakini was similar in the sense where she came forward and I felt her confidence and her power. And she had a orb of white light and she placed it into my crown and then basically activated all of this, I guess, this deep sense of knowing that everything's gonna be okay. Like at a soul, like my soul knows what's
mhm,
happening. My soul planned this. Like, and it was just reconnecting to that energy where they don't like there's nothing to worry about. It is
mhm,
there's it's gonna be okay. Like I'm always gonna be taken care of. There is literally no need. And if I could just reconnect to the power of that knowing that my soul holds, then I don't need to hold that or create that anxiety or that worry that sits within my chest. Like I can, so the two working together to help heal that. And then I wanted to call you forward so they could do the same for you. And so I did, but then I was receiving the message that I needed to take you there in meditation so that you could experience what I experienced and receive those healings and those messages as well. So before we did the podcast today, we went into meditation together like we would for a reading, and we went into our space and we pulled them all the energies forward again, and then you got to experience that. But that I just wanted to share that because that's something that, you know, as you learn how to read energy and connect safely and call forward different beings to work with, these are things that you can do for yourself that are so empowering and just so just experiencing it is just so like heart fulfilling and like expanding, and there's just so much gratitude for the skill that we've been able to develop to be able to experience something like that for ourselves.
well, it pulls you out of the 3D matrix. It pulls you out of the muck because, we get caught in it too,
Mm-hmm.
and just because we may have like be able to have a higher perspective on things and pull back and kind of say, okay, wait a minute, like, let me see this from a different perspective than just the tunnel vision. Even though we can do that, we're also human and we get caught
Yeah.
in not and having like the mind loops and the worry and all of the things. And so even experiencing that, it just instantly, like, it instantly just lifts.
Yeah.
Right when you started to guide me through, our typical type of, grounding and connection and stuff, I just was like, all of a sudden I was like, oof, And it's like my energy just like settles in, and I'm like, I could just feel the groundedness and feel calm. And I'm like, Allison, you need to do this more often for yourself,
Yeah.
especially when I'm spiraling or, in my mind loops too much, because I know that frequency, it feels amazing. And then of course, like the connection and connecting to these beings, and it really starts to give you the reassurance that you need so you can stay out of the energy of spiraling.
Yeah.
And even just like the connecting to our business, like Soulstar. And one of the things that kind of came forward when you had guided me to bring forward our business, and we kind of see it as an orb of energy, and this orb of energy changes every time, or different every time we kind of connect to it, because our business is changing and transforming. But one of the things that I connected to this time with our business was this sense of safety and security,
Mm-hmm.
and this feeling like the business has my back. Like I don't have to be the one, where I realized, and you and I had this conversation afterwards, that you don't even realize, like sometimes as women, we can take on these roles that we are juggling everything, and it's all up to us. Everything's on our shoulders. Like the kids need to get this, it's up to us, the career, the everything. And it was an odd feeling to connect to this energy, that I was like, oh my God, you make me feel safe. You make me feel secure. You make me feel like I don't have to run the show all the time. And it was so bizarre. And for myself as a human, I wouldn't naturally say my state of a entrepreneur, like it would not feel safe and secure to me. It feels very, and that's just my limiting programming, that, a salary position with a company and benefits, that's safe and secure. Going into entrepreneurial, being an entrepreneur and not having that backup is not safe and secure. So I was kind of like, what? Why was that the first thing that came to me? And so it's interesting, right? Like the feelings that you can kind of get. And also as a business owner, if you're a business owner and you're trying to even understand your business a bit more, like this is such a great, activity to do, to connect. Like we've connected to Soulstar. We've, in this one, it was more connecting to those divine, the feminine, what are they?
Ascended Masters.
Ascended Masters. I was like, who are you? I just see their faces. But other times we've done it just solely with Soulstar, and have like gone into the energy and felt it, and felt what she needed from us, felt like, what we needed to let go of, and all of that. So it was nice connecting to her today, because she made me feel good.
And as you're talking there, I was reminded that like when we connected to Soulstar's energy, like earlier this year, we really received all the things around the root chakra, which is safety and security and, financial stuff and all that sort of stuff. And we have been working for the past 6 months to build our systems and ensure that our foundation is solid, so that we can build upon that and not have that foundation crack or crumble at some point down the road. Like they're going to show us the growth we're calling in as soon as that foundation is solid enough to support that growth. And it's so interesting today when we connected to her, she made you feel safe, because that's what we've been working on with her since the beginning of the year.
I freaking love that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez. Oh God, man. I just like love spirit so much. I just can't. And I'm like, after that, we were playing with cards, because Mandy got a bunch of new cards, because I convinced her to become a card subscription through Hay House. Because we need more cards. But she was like, ooh, why don't you pull one of the archangels for the business? And so this is where it's like funny how energy works. When I was going to pull a card, I started to talk to her about me. Of course.
Weird.
Weird. Shut up. You talk too. People are gonna think I only.
I'm teasing.
And I pulled a card and I was like, oh, well, that kind of suits me more than the business. And I was like, oh, come on, idiot. And I was like, I was talking about me. And so I was like, went back to it and I started, I was like, no, we're pulling it for Soul Star, not even us. Cause I first said us. And I said, no, Soul Star. Holy shit, man. And this is where you just love it. Like the card we pulled was exactly about the business, exactly what we were feeling when we went into meditation. Everything to do with like the business and and I was like, yeah, you can't deny this stuff. Like, it's not by fluke. It's so cool. Grab yourself some cards.
Yeah, if you don't have cards, you need cards.
I know, they're so fun.
I know.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we should roll into past lives.
Yes. I love past lives.
I do too. And I think that past lives and the Akashic records has created so much more awareness and understanding of like some of the things that I struggle with in my life, right? And even some of the things that my kids struggle with. And I'm like, why are you so attached to me? Like Aubrey, for example, since she was a kid, I think I've talked about this. So like just so scared that I'm going to leave and not come home. And I viewed a past life for her when we were talking about this just a while ago. And because she still has that fear of being abandoned or whatever. I can't remember if I shared this past life on the podcast, but basically she was a young girl and she had siblings, and her dad passed away somehow, and they were in like a rural countryside home, and it was like a homestead, and her mom had to go into town to get some supplies and she never came home.
And that would create a energetic like
imprint
on the body, because
it did create an energetic imprint, because she came forward into this lifetime feeling that fear of abandonment and that so scared shitless that I wasn't going to come home, to the point where like as a toddler, as an infant, Nick would have to console her for an hour. She would bawl as if I left, and I had to go everywhere with her. And I remember even like getting her to go to preschool was really hard, and thankfully it was her grandmother that was the preschool teacher. Otherwise,
oh my God, which is just crazy.
Yeah. And she had this little bunny that she kept with her. It was her safety net. And she took it everywhere. So when they went on little field trips, it would be always with her. And I have pictures. Every picture I have of her has this bunny in it, because it made her feel safe. And she's better now, obviously, with age, but still to the point, like, I don't know, when she graduates high school and all that sort of stuff, she's going to be like, I don't know when she's going to leave.
Never.
We will see.
Well, and it makes you realize, like, if you knew about this work or you were involved in it at that age, like you could have been proactively doing things to help, and energetically and just even emotionally, to be able to move through that.
And I think even just having compassion around her fear there, like, because in this lifetime, it's an irrational fear or an irrational fear. To me, like, there's no reason for you to feel like I'm going to abandon you. Like, I always come home, like all those things, right? So some parents would feel frustrated, and I'm sure there's times in the past where I maybe felt frustrated that she was so emotional or sensitive about me leaving or whatever.
And you're like, I just need a break.
Right. But I think understanding why, and then seeing the past life and feeling the energy of that past life, of how she felt, and then why she has that soul imprint in this lifetime, has given me way more compassion and empathy for when she gets into those phases or when she feels that way. And I also know how to help her release that. We can talk about it. I shared that past life with her, and it made sense for her. She was like, oh yes. And so she felt it. She remembered it.
Because knowledge is power in that sense. And so I think that's the biggest thing with these past lives, because, obviously as the reader and as the receiver, like, you're not going to be, most of the time you're not going to be validated. Like, I totally remember that. Yes, you were right. No, you have no idea. And so, there's this sense of like releasing that, because I think as a reader, validation is like, key. It makes you feel good when you're developing, and even when you are developed. Like if I didn't get any validation, I think I'd be like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I still doing this? But you don't really get that much with the Akashic records. And so, but it's like this, but the fact that like as the person receiving and learning about it, there is this kind of like inner knowing. It's the weirdest thing, but it's like when you tell somebody about their past lives, or when I've heard about some of my past lives, there's just this like this feeling, this inner knowing of like, oh my God, that makes sense. And then it just feels better. It just
Yeah.
feels better.
Or
Right.
even a lot of times we'll be like reading a past life and we're experiencing, a scenario, and then we'll share it with the person, the sitter. And then they're like, "Oh my God, that is exactly what's going on in my life right now."
Right now. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's because, and that's happened a lot with readings where you're like, you had no idea what their life was, and they're like, you literally just mirrored what my
Hmm.
life is. And so then those mirror lifetimes. So it's so interesting, because usually, like, obviously when we go, like, why would we go to the Akashic records to look at past lives? So sometimes spirit brings us there and we don't even have a choice. They bring us right into a past life. Now, those ones, when spirit brings us right into a past life, that's something that spirit wants that person to know. That's something that their guides are like, this, they need to know this, experience this, whatever it is. Typically the mirror lifetimes come that way. Like I have found
Hmm.
when it's been not me going in because they asked me, to look into let's just say their partner, and be like, I'd like to know past lives with my current partner. And then all of a sudden I'm off somewhere else because they're like, yeah, before that, wait a minute. We need to show you this, this, and this. And so that's usually an important lifetime that they want to share. And it helps with whatever kind of
Hmm.
like feeling or healing that you need to go through. And then there's the ones that we are going in specifically asking,
Yeah.
about maybe a certain relationship. So maybe a relationship with your mom, with your dad, with the sibling, with your partner, to be able to understand it. Maybe it's with an ex who hurt you greatly and you're struggling with it. And it's like, what the hell is this a karmic cycle? Like, what is this? And so that's where, you're looking at the soul contract, but typically looking at past lives that you've spent with this soul.
Hmm.
Because usually, if you have a significant enough relationship or experience with somebody, you usually have, gone through some past lives together and
Yes.
done and played different type of roles. And that can really kind of um, help you to understand and have the empathy and all of that. I have like this has happened many times where somebody will say like, I don't understand like why we're struggling, or what is going on, or why is it so difficult. And sometimes like the soul contract between these two souls and the past lives that they've played is they play difficult roles, and we've seen it where they switch back and forth. So like,
Hmm.
okay, we're so close, our souls are so close and so connected that we come into these lifetimes and we're like, yeah, I got you. Because remember, on the other side, we want to experience things. We want to know what it is to experience hardship and tribulation and all of that. As silly as that sounds, like, come on, guys. Why do you want to know that?
And
But
why so much of it?
oh God, it's like it's sometimes I'm like, okay, this is all love and joy over there, and you're like, let's get dirty. And so, but that's the thing, like you just think like you and your bestie on the other side are so close and can really kind of hold that space for each other, that you do this for each other because you both want to ascend and grow
Hmm.
with your soul evolution. And so, coming in, and sometimes it's just like, okay, this lifetime, I'm going to make your life a living hell, Mandy, and then swap next time, right? And we just keep, and so some souls will do that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, purely for soul growth. And it's challenging, right? But
Hmm.
it can make you also kind of be like, oh man, that's why we have this odd connection.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people also misinterpret like a soul, like a deep soul connection with a twin flame.
twin flame, soulmate,
Hmm.
love. Like I think that can get really,
Confusing.
yeah, confusing and kind of interrupt, especially when you're like, I feel such a strong connection to this person, like
Why is it so
strong.
magnetic?
Yes, it has
Yeah.
to be, there has to be a reason. And sometimes it can just be soul recognition that
Yeah.
you've done so many, especially if you've done hard lives for each other. I would
Hmm.
assume two souls that have experienced hard lives together, if they do this on a regular basis, that there would be like a real soul connection or um, recognition
Hmm.
in this lifetime. But then
Absolutely.
we can definitely fill in the blanks and we can take it as like they're my twin flame or they're my soulmate and we're meant to be in love forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah, and then when it doesn't work out that way, there's so much confusion and
Yes.
frustration and heartbreak. And then yeah, but then this is when being able to access your Akashic records to truly read that soul contract and understand what it actually is about allows you to move through that or past that easier. I say with
Yeah.
maybe with
Because
more
you feel a
ease.
void. I think like because
Yeah.
what can happen is like if you got into connection with a soul that your soul's very familiar with and then they leave because that's the role that they play always,
Hmm.
would feel like this void. It would feel like you just rip something and you're like, whoa, I just had this and now it's gone. Like, and
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, but I know
Hmm.
that energetically I want it back.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, dude, that's not what our contract's about.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. No. But even the twin flame thing, like I was listening to somebody talking about the twin flame and it really made sense in the sense like the whole point of a twin flame is to trigger you to help you with healing.
Hmm.
And typically, if you're triggering somebody to help with healing, it's not going to be all like wonderful.
Love. Yeah.
No,
Not going to be all passion and sex.
no, because if that is the whole point, is to trigger you to mirror things back to help with the healing and the growth and all of that. It's actually going to be the opposite. It's
It's
going to
going to be a hard relationship.
yeah, rightfully so. It's
I would
supposed to
hate to
be.
have a twin flame, to be honest with you.
I
Hate it.
know.
I'd
Because
hate
I'd be
it.
like, get out of here. Beat it. Stop coming around me. I know who you are. Get the hell out of here. So, well, especially because there's free will. And that was another thing I kind of learned was, because there's free will. So typically, if there's a twin flame, both are here to heal and grow.
Yeah.
That's the main purpose. And but you have free will to choose if you want to or not.
Hmm.
And so let's just say one is like, sure, okay, let me jump on board, but the other is like, oh fuck no,
Hmm.
I'm not doing that. Then it even more can be kind of like this, like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
And then that's when you're like, get out of here, beat it. You're
Hmm.
not welcome here.
Hmm.
Because you're not
You're
doing
not
the work.
you're not doing the work? Get it
Yeah,
out of
beat it.
here. Yeah.
Beat it. I love like you and I just look at each other, but like people just sometimes hear the audio and they don't know like we're just staring at each other.
True story.
True that, true that, true that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What other reasons like so the healing, like so those are kind of the reasons of why like visiting or viewing or how those are helpful, but like the healing part of it.
Yeah, actually I love all the healing stuff so much. Like that is just love it. And it's so interesting when you're viewing a past life and you get this sense, like this call that you really want to do some healing work, but then you're like, I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know that this is like we teach this in our courses and stuff like that. But it can be so impactful to do the healing work. And I guess if you are viewing past lives already at the point where you can go into the Akashic records and view past lives and you're wanting to do some healing work, our advice would be just to intuitively um
Yes.
do what you feel called to do. But you
Mm-hmm.
can incorporate so much because we do healing work not in past lives, and then we do healing work in past lives, and they can be the same. So when you're in a past life and you're viewing this soul, as a character in the 1800s that is being burned at the stake, for example, because they're being accused of being a witch, let's just say, um, doing the healing work, and you can call forward, the beings that you would work with, like galactic beings. You can call forward ascended masters. You can call forward archangels. You can call forward their higher self. You can do Reiki energy. You can use sacred geometry. You can do cord cuttings, soul retrievals, like all of the things that we teach in Soul Star Healer, you can do in Akashic Records past life healings.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that in the past lives, and you can do that outside the past lives, like for them in this moment, as well. Like you can incorporate both. And I think doing it in the past life is so impactful, because not only are you healing that past life, and when we say past lives, it's actually a parallel life, and I think we've talked about this
Mm-hmm.
before, because we're playing all of our lifetimes out at the same time, in a sense. So that's why when you heal a past life, you're healing all the other lifetimes, including this one, in which you've imprinted that wound and have carried it out. So let's say you were a witch in the 1800s that got burned at the stake, but then you've had like 30 lifetimes since then, and you've carried that witch wound through all 30 lifetimes. You could have been doing a little bit of healing work in each lifetime, and every single lifetime you would have done a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And now this is the lifetime in which you're fully healing it, because now you're feeling called to this work again. You're stepping into this power. You're releasing that witch wound. You're doing the energy work because you know how, like all these things. And we've seen this a lot, actually, where a lot of people have been doing the healing work, and then this is the lifetime where they're fully releasing it. Or we've also got the sense where this is the lifetime where they're starting the healing work, and then the future lifetimes is when they're going to release the rest of it. So that's why being able to access these past lives and heal them is so impactful, because it's going to help heal all the lifetimes in which you carried that wound, including this one. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I can't remember if I shared the lifetime that I viewed during my QF blah 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 session. QHHT. Did I say that right?
Yep.
I just don't remember if I shared it on here in that sense about like, because like I view a lot of past lives for clients and other
Mm-hmm.
people. I don't for myself. I don't know why. But in this session, I don't know why.
I don't know why
I'm
either.
such a curious monkey. I'm surprised I'm not going in and doing that more, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't. But in this session where I was, put into a trance state, viewed one of my past lives, and it's crazy when you're viewing it for yourself, obviously, versus viewing it for somebody else. You can feel the emotion for somebody else, definitely, but there is this detachment. But when you're viewing it for yourself, there's this kind of like soul recognition of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh shit, I don't want to be here. And it's not like and the thing is, there's so many. I just hit my mic. I'm sorry. Did you hear that?
I did.
Fuck off, Mike. Allison. Um, so we talk about the harder ones. That's because we're a healing journey. So we're typically
Yeah.
not healing the fun and loving ones. But you can also visit those too. So don't just think
Yeah.
like, why would I want to visit? It's like all this shit. But
We'll talk about that. Remind me, we'll talk about that.
yeah, yeah. But in this lifetime, I was, walking, I was a young girl walking towards a forest, and I was anxious because I didn't want to walk in this forest by myself because I was worried. And as I'm like going through this, I'm like, the person kind of guiding me was like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel worried. I don't know what's happening, but I feel worried. And sure enough, I walked in, and a man came and, took advantage. And the really cool thing was that we were able to skip over the actual act, so I didn't have to
Mm.
see it, but kind of skip over to like afterwards and the feelings that it kind of brought out and how that affected me in that lifetime. And then what you do is then you move forward and be like, okay, how did it affect? How did I move forward in that lifetime? And I move forward very detached from myself. I move forward very kind of like, there was not this connection to self. It was just kind of like, this is my role. I am a body to birth children. I am a what, like, there was a real disconnect.
You're just a tool for
I'm
the
just a
man.
tool. I'm a vessel. And it was always just disconnected. And I lived my life that way. And, of course, attracted an abusive husband. And one of the really crazy things is when we kind of moved forward and I was in my childbearing years with my abusive husband and stuff, I found myself in a cellar in the house that he would lock me in if I was being bad. And I was like etching stuff into the cement floor as like a coping mechanism. And then when she moved me forward to like my crone years.
Love that you use that term. Well done.
You. I was like, is that the word? I'm just going to say it.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. To my crone years, I, found myself like in this, kind of like secluded wood cabin in the forest, which I would have assumed, like, if I went to that past life right at that stage, I would have been like, I'm a witch. But it wasn't practicing it or anything like that. But it was like my way of, just getting away from everybody and everything. And it was lovely. It was beautiful because there was nobody taking advantage of me. But when my soul passed and left my body in that, so I'm viewing this all in this like past life. I'm viewing that's the thing, you set the intention. Okay, I want to see when my soul left that body. When that soul left that body, I all of a sudden kind of got like this bird's eye view of the cabin inside, like as if I was on the ceiling looking down at this body. And I saw these etches all over the cabin, on the floor, on the walls, these etches that I did when I was in that cellar, and it was this coping. And so I was like, oh my God, like at first I was like, wow, I was crazy. Like obviously like Looney Tunes gone like, and what was really neat was like, the person that was kind of walking me through this, which is one of our past students, Leanne Mercady. I love saying her name. I think I say it right. What if I don't? And I'm all like, Mercady. And then it's like, no, that's not how you say it.
We'll put her in the show notes. Spruce healing. Right?
Yeah. Spruce
energy healing.
Yeah. Because she does these QHHT. But, she kind of guided it at that point and said, well, how does Allison's soul cope? What does she do in this lifetime? Like that was her coping mechanism there. Does she do this in this lifetime? Does she do something like this? What is it in her? And it was food. It was food. That was my coping mechanism. And in a way it was like, I'm not seen if I carry extra weight and all of these things. And I was like, holy cripes. And so, looking and experiencing a past life like that, and going through it and realizing like, holy crap, like, do I, consciously remember that lifetime? No, but I feel an energetic connection to it. And there's a bit of like this release in knowing about it. And, because the work that I do, through that session said, can we stop? I just want to do some healing. So I started doing healing on myself in that past life when, after being, assaulted, did healing there. And then I stopped and did healing, throughout the thing, just to be like, it's okay, you're okay. And so it's so transformational. And now like I will think back, like if I'm turning to food and be like, okay, no, wait, this is an automatic coping mechanism. Let's find a different coping mechanism. You don't need this. And so transformational to kind of like help you move through things,
Yeah. Because, knowledge is power, and awareness just helps you see things from that different perspective. And it brings in more compassion and empathy for yourself and then where you're at. And, it also allows you, I think, to move forward because you can release a lot of that once you understand it from that perspective or from that space, it helps you release it, I think, a little bit more as well. And that's what the healing work does, like the healing, the energy work. Viewing the past life and understanding it is one thing, but doing the healing and the energy work within that past life just adds another layer of magic to it, essentially. And we both have experienced energy work and healings and all that sort of stuff in our physical life, not just in the past life, and have experienced significant shifts and releases because of the energy work that we've done for ourselves or that people have done for us. So that's why it's just so powerful to, I don't know, do that for yourself. It's just so empowering to be able to do that for yourself and to,
Yeah, you're taking your power back,
yeah.
right? You don't rely on anybody else. It's just
And you don't have to pay anybody to do it for you either.
no. And you know what they're putting into my head? It must be Cody, not H. Because like as I was saying it, they're like, right, exactly, just like your nails. And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh no, true that. That's true. So like I don't want to have to spend money to get my nails done.
Mhm.
And I
So you
also
learned how to do it for
so I
yourself.
learned how to do it for myself because I was like, oh, this was kind of fun getting my nails done. But then, the stupid paint would chip. And I'm like, oh my God, I am not going back in there to get it fixed. Like, what a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'm like, I want to do this, but I don't want to have to do that. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to learn how to do it myself. And now I do my nails all by myself and I don't have to pay nobody. And you're empowering yourself to then now just do it for yourself. So same, that's what they showed in my head. So
It's
that's
so
the real life scenario. It's the same thing. You don't
yeah.
have to. So sometimes even looking at it as like an upfront investment in
Hmm.
yourself to learn how to do this will then save you from having to, you know, pay somebody else to do it constantly.
Yes. Yeah. Because then again, when you do that, in a sense, you are giving your power away because you're relying on somebody else to do that work for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of why we teach it. Because again, like you and I both experienced so much transformation, so much growth, so much expansion, so many beautiful things. Hardships too. Like it's been hard, but it's also been amazing.
Yeah.
And that's why we teach this to others, is because we want you to be able to do this for yourself as well. We don't necessarily want you to pay us to do it for you. We want you to do it for you, be able to do it for yourself
Yeah. And
and
in saying that,
teach your children.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to change the world.
Hmm.
But in saying that, we support each other energetic, like, just like a massage therapist
Hmm.
still needs a massage therapist or a doctor still needs a doctor and stuff. But that's kind of more of the like backup, I would say.
Yeah.
So there's definitely times that I just need a third party to do a reading because I'm too attached to
Hmm.
the outcome or whatever. So it's not saying that, um, even if you've learned the skill, it's like, don't go see a reader. Oh, fuck no.
No, you can. Well,
We do
absolutely.
all the time.
But
So,
then what happens when you step into this community is now you're in a community with a bunch of people who can read energy and work in the Akashic records and shift energy and healings and stuff like that. So now you're just doing trades with each other.
you're
You're
doing
not,
trades, you're
yeah.
understanding what they're
Mhm.
saying,
Oh, it's
using
so
it
different.
differently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
so
different
different.
when we're doing this work for somebody who also does this work, because the the understanding and the shifts that they experience is so much deeper, right?
Well, yeah, because you can be given a reading and told from spirit all these things. But if you don't fully understand it or grasp the concept of some of it, it's just going to fizzle out and go away. But then when you've kind of like you've done the work and you've kind of gone through this process of understanding energy and how it all works, and you get this reading, you could say the same things from to that person to another person, and the person that's kind of gone through this spiritual awakening, this opening up their mind and understanding, they're going to grab that and be like, okay, I know what to do. I know what to do.
Yeah. And even and even so, like we will get in that reading, we'll be like, okay, spirit wants you to do XYZ for yourself. So go into meditation, do an inner child healing for yourself, pull forward the energy of your sacral chakra, find your inner child in there, like all these things. And that is the deeper stuff. And when we share that with some of our students or with people that do this work, they will be able to go and do that work for themselves. But
Yep.
if you don't know how yet, we in sharing that information is kind of, it's harder because then you're relying on somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to sit differently. Let's just briefly talk about, so like, we were talking about hard lifetimes
Oh yeah, the
to
good ones.
yeah, and but even like the seeing the hard ones, I know like the other day we had a student that was saying that she went to see one of these hard lifetimes and it was hard to move through, and it was like, I
Hmm.
don't even know if I want to. And it, and that's very real.
Hmm.
And that even shows how real it is, the fact that it's something like you could say is fictional, because there's no proof, physical proof of it. But the fact that like energetically it was like, I don't know if I can do this and
Hmm.
see this. And so we also kind of like, we talk about how to kind of move through those more difficult lifetimes. We talk about bringing in extra support, or maybe you leave it and you come back to it when you can handle it more, because you also have to energetically be in a space to handle it. And then being able to maybe detach yourself a bit, to like, even though it's something connected to you, if you can kind of like look at it from a different perspective. So for instance, if you are visiting, like if you're doing inner child work and you're visiting a
Hmm.
time of your life that was difficult, and sometimes that can be really hard to watch, but you're watching it from your, or trying to watch it from your now more evolved adult life and seeing
Hmm.
it through that lens instead of seeing it through the innocent child lens. Or there's sometimes you can kind of separate yourself so you can move through it. So those, and I think like in leading into that, it's kind of like, because I think they mentioned like, man, why is it always bad lives that we're seeing? And it's like, because we're trying to heal, right?
Yeah.
And but we absolutely, we both have seen lives that we loved and we visited, and it's beautiful and makes you understand, like me, and feeling connected to farms. Like, I don't like grass. Why do I feel connected to farms? That's the worst thing. Manure? No. But I feel at peace when I'm driving through the country. I feel a pull. It's because my soul's, one of my best lives that I've lived was a farmer,
Hmm.
and so my internally compass is like, oh, this makes me feel good. But my human's like, ew,
Yeah.
poo.
Well, one of the other things that you can do, like with respect to the better lives and the good lives and the more powerful lives, is, a soul activation. So going into the Akashic records to view a lifetime in which you fully embodied your spiritual gifts, for example, and then
So
pulling
a
that,
soul integration.
yeah, a soul
Yeah.
integration
Yeah.
and pulling forward that lifetime and viewing that lifetime, connecting to all that power, all that wisdom, all that deep knowing, all that grounded energy, all that confidence. And you get to relive that and sense it and feel it, but then and then integrating that energy into your lifetime now and reawakening and activating all of those cells that are held within your DNA and those DNA strands. That's, we teach this again. This is something, another healing that you can do for yourself when you're acting or when you're connecting to those good lifetimes, those ones that you really want to remember, you really want to empower yourself with. So yeah, we do actually talk a lot about the ones that you have to heal, because little Miss Shadow Worker over here.
Little Miss Shadow Worker over here. Oh, I
But
love
there
about
are
the healing.
so many good lifetimes that you can connect to too. And one of our favorite things to do, I don't know, maybe for myself, I like to view my past lifetimes where life was just really, really good, because you can get into those spaces. I can get into those spaces where this lifetime is hard, and you're like, oh, this is really hard. Why would I set myself up this way? Or why does it have to be so difficult? Or like this, just that this middle space is really uncomfortable. And then connecting to a lifetime that makes you just feel so good and you're start to embody that energy. And like we did this morning, it just kind of dissipates that anxiety or that worry that you might be experiencing in your physical form when you're connecting to that frequency from that past life and then seeing how good things can be and asking that to come forward for yourself in this lifetime. So there's just so much beauty that you can do within the Akashic records and viewing these past lives and healing these past lives and integrating these past lives. Like this just, I don't know. I love
Yeah.
it.
And just to, before we wrap this sucker up, you can also absolutely view lives on other planets
Oh
and other
yeah.
dimensions as other beings, because we have, it's not just human lives. We haven't just been here. And so sometimes like that's really cool to connect to those other versions of yourself, because you're also connecting to a world or a dimension that is different than ours, and you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, what is that? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
like the
love it.
Shira round
Oh,
realm.
round.
Round
The Shira realm.
Shira. What's
Princess
her?
of Power.
Oh, it's Princess of Power. That's what Shira,
Yeah.
Princess of Power. I had like a little Shira
Yeah,
when
I
I
think I
was,
did too.
yeah, she
Because
was
my
super
brother
cool.
had all the He-Man stuff, and then I got like all the, He-Man was like this big, huge thing, Castle of Grayskull or something like that, and it was like this huge thing, and then I would like She-Ra. It's like this little bitty little play
Oh, just
people.
yeah, and she had like a gold outfit on, and you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Wait,
hi,
didn't she
yeah.
have a unicorn with a
Did she?
unicorn, a Pegasus maybe? I don't know, a
I
sword
don't
for
even
sure.
bloody remember. I don't even bloody remember watching her.
I do.
I just
Came
don't.
on
I just
after He-Man, I think.
really, I just remember the little figure, and I thought
Mm,
she was the coolest, cutest thing ever. And I was like,
yeah.
I want to wear a gold outfit like that.
I love that visiting that realm or my lifetime in that realm
Yeah.
because it's powerful. Like you feel that warrior energy and you're like, I can fucking do anything. I am gonna crush you all.
Oh my God, we're living our superhero
Yeah.
phase. We're just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to share it with your friends. And maybe they'll be like, wow, that's weird. You guys are weird. And that's cool. That's fine. But yeah, share it sharing is caring. And if you feel called to, then definitely do that. And reach out to us. Come join us in our community over in Mighty Network. It's under Soul Star Energy Collective, and it's our light worker community, so that you're connected with like-minded souls,
Mhm.
where people won't think it's weird. So thank you for listening. We so appreciate you guys being here so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye.